You don't know, Maxwell Mendoza, 100%. Meow.
Un saludo para todos los amigos de PelaGatos. Un saludo para todos.
Empieza a estallar. Ahí va. Escucha y siente y canta. PelaGatos. Toda la gente está con PelaGatos. Escucha y siente y canta. PelaGatos. Toda la gente está con PelaGatos.
Well, dub music was clearly started in Kingston, Jamaica. And though many people claim to be the originators, most of us think it's King Tubby's, right? Because King Tubby's was a guy, an electronic guy who was experimenting. And even before dub music started, we must go back to when records were made up by two sides, clearly. The single was the format for most people, and the single had an A side and a B side. Two different songs, different recordings. Then towards the very late 60s, around 68, 69, the producers got smart with this. They thought, why record two sides when we could record one side and do like the Americans were doing and have a part one and a part two. We call it part two version. So they'd have the A side with the singing and then the B side instrumental. King Tubby's used to be repairing speakers and fixing everything for every sound system. He had got hold of some equipment from Dynamic Studios, who were upgrading from 8-track and 4-track to 16-track. So they sold King Tubby's their old 4-track machines and 4-track mixing board. He built a studio at the back of his house and he started to experiment. And what he would do is he would bring the tapes, and instead of just running a version for a B-side, he started to do something interesting. He started to drop out part of the 4-track recording. And like suddenly there was like what we called at that time bass and drum. And Dennis Brown made his own track over that rhythm track. But Westbound Train wasn't so popular. Instead, the B-side, the drum and bass, which was a hard driving rhythm track by Lloyd Parks, and which was like doom doom kak, doom doom kak, doom doom kak, kadang kak, ting ting. And what Tubbs has done is he started to put reverb, no echo at this point. So it was doom doom pa, doom doom pa, doom doom pa, doom doom. This was very, very popular, so people don't even want to hear the A side. And that was like the beginning of dub as we know it. And the next year, the most popular B-side track ever came out. Which was Baby I Love You So. The version of it was King Tubby meets the Rockers Uptown. The A side was by Jacob Miller, the B side by King Tubby's and Augustus Pablo. And that tune marked the point in which people would go to a record shop, and instead of saying, when they have a new record out, they say, let me hear the B side. And they'd buy it for the B side, not the A side. And that's the beginning of the dub.
Run-a-dee run, run-a-dee run, run-a-dee run, run-a-dee run. We hit the inner city for the main man hit the town. Spent our cash on looking flash and heavy jab sound. The clubs have turned their bouncers on the drunken miners crowd. You hear nothing from your logic club.
Two of the biggest dub tracks are really coming from soul music.
Yeah.
I don't think original soul writers even realize what their song has inspired.
Yeah.
But it comes from soul music. Pop music has got this relationship where if you check it out, it's coming along, then it peak, then it kind of drop, and it goes down, then it peak again, some interest, then it drop. You know, it comes in a cycle, you know? And right now we riding on another high. The standard over the years was very high. And as you come down, the standards drop. And you know, if you listen, if you immerse yourself in today's culture, you will not aim very high because it's not much to aim for. It's all what a computer could do. Even when you listen to musicianships of the 60s and 70s, you realize, you know what? These guys were actually skillful.
Yeah, really skillful.
Yeah. And even the equipment they had to work on over the years, the standard has dropped. So the standard of the equipment has dropped. The standard of the people playing the instruments have dropped. The standard of the vocalists performing those materials have dropped. Do you think anyone could come along now with the amount of songs and quality songs that, say, Bob Marley has delivered? Impossible. Because the standard has dropped. And not only from their start, people would fill up their head with shit that they probably make one album, good album if they're lucky. And that's it. If you look at even the 60s and the 70s, look how many artists have made numerous albums of good, consistent quality. You take a year like 1973, which I think 73 was one of the peaks between 1970 and 1973, right? If you take, for instance, a group like the Stylistics, the first album, you listen to that album, every track on that album a hit. And not only is it a hit, everybody who cover any of those tracks get a hit. You have a guy like Al Green, for instance. So Al Green, start hit in 1970. You know, with a cover The Temptations, what is it? I Can't Get Next to You. You listen to the album, every hit in that album, a hit. You take another album like that came out at that time by Al Green, who had like maybe 3 hit albums in a year. You had Call Me, which is one with Here I Am Baby, You Ought to Be With Me. You had the next one with Love and Happiness, I'm Still in Love with You. Hit after hit. Then you have the same year Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On. Bob Marley, 73, listen. First the Catch a Fire album. My wife gave me that album as a present for one track on it. Concrete Jungle, right? No reggae person made albums of concept in that time. Bob Marley did it, right? And it didn't catch on. Reggae people couldn't. The favorite reggae singer that time was John Holt. He couldn't do nothing wrong. Right? Bob couldn't match him. Second album he did, Burn It. Again, it was a little bit too weird for the market. Reggae market couldn't take, because it just wasn't. It wasn't the style. It wasn't the sound. And reggae people were more singles. They were about singers and they were hit songs. They were about hit songs. They weren't hit songs. I think Concrete Jungle came off as a single from Catch a Fire. And there was another guy with a record called Concrete Jungle that was very popular, and that was Big Youth. So there were 2 Concrete Jungles that were on the scene, and Big Youth was clearly the more popular one than Bob Marley. Then the next Bob Marley album was Burning. And I think which single came off Burning? I Shot the Sheriff came off. And a lot of people thought I Shot the Sheriff because the same time they had Bob Marley on that, Eric Clapton. Yeah, and Clapton on went up in the charts. And that's when people started to take note of Bob Marley. The third island record that actually did a film, which was the Natty Dread. Natty Dread came out 1974. So they were working him when one didn't work. And I guess, if Natty Dread didn't work, then he might have been shelved. Yeah, he wasn't really catching on, He was taking over, but, But Natty Dread came out and they did a big push behind him. And at the same time, they had a concert at this venue in London called the Lyceum.
Yeah.
And the Lyceum started to do different concerts. First, there was the Virgin Explosion with U-Roy, Gladiators, the Diamonds. That was recorded, and we had issued No Woman, No Cry live recording. And that went to the top. Went in and it number 8 in the pop charts. No Woman, No Cry. And it's from then Bob Marley actually caught on. So you see, it wasn't automatic. No. Yeah, well, I saw Bob in 71 at a venue in Peckham. There was about 60 to 70 people in that venue. Mainly black people. And he was unknown. Yeah, Mad Professor, salute PelaGatos, okay? W.